Hello everyone, it's Jen from Old Tinkerer Studio. Welcome to the next Let's Make Blender 2.7 tutorial. In this tutorial, we will be modeling a cartoon style bank. This tutorial series assumes that you know the basics of Blender modeling. If you're new to Blender, I would recommend viewing my Blender Basics course before beginning this series. Let's start with the building base. Go ahead and change to Cycles Render. Then scale the cube into a base for the bank, and then apply the scale. Tab into Edit Mode and select the very top face. Then you want to inset this face to the size of the actual building that we want. Then extrude this inset face up along the Z-axis. Make it whatever height that you desire. Then scale this top face to make the bottom edge of what's going to be our roof flared out. Now we're going to go ahead and form the roof. So extrude this top face up along the Z-axis twice. Then select these outer faces of the second extrusion. And scale them so they're larger than the first extrusion. And select the very top faces again. And go ahead and extrude them along the Z-axis. And then again, just like we did with this second extrusion, go ahead and select the outer edges. And then we want to go ahead and scale them so they're larger than the actual base of the building. Add 2 vertical loop cuts to the top of the roof, and then scale them along the x-axis to the width of the actual peak that you want. Now what we need to do is make these diagonal lines line up with the actual vertical loop cut that we have here. So go ahead and grab these outer vertices and then scale them along the X and straighten them. And then select these inner vertices and scale them along the X-axis. Now go ahead and add a vertical loop cut in between the 2 loop cuts that we just made. Just place it right in the center. And go ahead and select these faces that are in between the 2 outer loop cuts. duplicate them. Then extrude these faces up along the Z-axis to the desired height of the roof peak. And then scale the faces along the X-axis to the size of the peak that you want for the width. Now select the front and back faces and inset them. Then we want to inset them towards the center of the building. Now go ahead and add a UV sphere. Change these segments to 16. And then go ahead and move it above the building. This is just going to become a decoration on the front and back of the roof peak. Go ahead and rotate this decoration around the X-axis 90 degrees. Then go ahead and delete everything except for these first 4 rings of faces. Select the entire decoration and scale it along the X-axis. I'm just going to scale mine by 0.5 to flatten it a little bit. Then we just need to align it to the front of the building first. Scale it down. And just duplicate it, rotate it around the Z-axis, and put the duplicated one on the back. Now we're going to work on some of the pieces of the building. We're going to make corner pieces and one horizontal piece around the entire building. So go ahead and add vertical loop cuts on each edge of the building, making them the width that you want to make your corner pieces. Now we need to add 2 horizontal pieces in the middle of the building. But because we have slanted the building out, we need to add the horizontal loop cuts separately. Because if we add 2 and then scale them along the Z-axis, it'll actually deform the mesh. So just add them one at a time. And then try and make them the same width as you made the corner pieces. And go ahead and add one more horizontal loop to the top of the building. Go ahead and select all of these new faces and then just extrude them. Now we're going to work on the doors and the windows. Go ahead and add a circle. Change the vertices to 16. And make sure the fill type is a triangle fan. Rotate it around the x-axis by 90 degrees. Delete the bottom half of the circle. Then select the remaining part of the circle and inset the faces. This is going to become an upper window. Go ahead and select this whole top to the door and then extrude it along the y-axis to give it a bit of a frame. Now go ahead and select the entire top to the door. And then we're going to put it in place in the front of the building, which means we're going to have to scale it and rotate it. Then once you have that in position, select the bottom two faces and then just extrude them down along the z-axis. Select these two new faces that we just made and inset them to make our doors. Then select all of these inset faces with the window and the doors. And then extrude them back along the y-axis to inset them inside of a frame. Now go ahead and select the entirety of the door, duplicate it, and then scale it along the X and Z axes to form a window. Now go ahead and add two horizontal loop cuts to the window. Again, add these separately so as not to deform the mesh. Then select these new faces and extrude them out along the y-axis so they meet the front edge of the frame. Add a cube that we're going to use as a ledge for the window. And just scale it to a proper size. and then align it to the window. Then just go ahead and duplicate the window and place them around the building as you desire. And don't forget, you're going to actually need to rotate these when you move them onto the other walls. Now we're going to go ahead and make the portico. So add a cube. This is going to be our portico roof. Go ahead and scale it to the desired size. Add 2 horizontal loop cuts and then scale them along the Z-axis. Then select the interfaces. You can select all 4, just the front 3 that are going to be showing. And then inset them. And then go ahead and align and scale the portico roof to the final position. And this may need to be refined a little bit later, but we'll just block it in for now. Now go ahead and add horizontal loop cuts to the base, and these are going to become our steps. And go ahead and select the center faces of the loop cuts that we just made. And we're going to extrude these to make our steps. Now we need to add 2 vertical loop cuts towards the outer edge of each of these steps. Just make sure that it's actually under the portico roof, which again, if you need to, you can go ahead and just rescale the portico roof to make sure that it's large enough. You'll need to add these one at a time again so as not to deform the mesh. Let's select 2 of the top faces that are going to be under the portico and go ahead and extrude them up along the Z-axis. Again, this is going to be the base of our columns. Select the faces on the side of the extrusion. And then extrude them out a little bit. Go ahead and add a cylinder. We will give it 16 vertices and nothing for the fill cap. And we need to align it and scale it so it fits in the center of the extrusion that we just made on the step. Then scale the column along the Z-axis in order to form the height of the column. Then temporarily move the column down along the Z-axis. And go ahead and select the very top edge loop and fill it in with a face. Then extrude this new face along the Z-axis. And then go ahead and just scale it out to give it a bit of a flare. And then move the entire column back into place. Duplicate the column and move it over to the other side. Now it's time for some materials. So go ahead and open up your materials tab. Let's add a new material. Just call this cement. Give it a gray color. I'm going to use the hex code of 808080. And assign it to the entire model. Add a new material. Call this brick. And give it a red color. I'm going to use the hex code of 841F27. And then assign this to the walls. Then add a new material and call it window. Give it a blue color. I'm using the hex code of 2F8096. And then assign it to all the windows and the doors. So let's go ahead and bake the materials. First, tab into object mode, select this default material and delete it, and then go back into edit mode. Split your screen into 3 sections. We'll change one to a UV image editor and one to the node editor. Select your entire mesh, and you can use Smart UV or Light Map Pack, whichever you prefer. Then go ahead and click on New in the UV map area and name this UV. Up here in the node editor, go ahead and hit Shift A, and we're going to add an image texture. And click on these arrows next to where it says open, and open up your UV that you just named. Make sure the image texture is active, copy it, and then paste it on the other 2 materials that we made. Go ahead and open up the render tab. Down at the very bottom, twirl open bake, and then click on bake. Then don't forget, once you have everything baked, to go under image and then save as image. If you follow along with this tutorial or any of my tutorials, please tweet me your creations. I'm interested in seeing how you're doing and what your creations look like, especially if you are adding things to them. If you have any questions or suggestions for tutorials, please leave a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day.